Okay, got our recorder going. Okay, so what I want to do before we jump into anything is I'm going to take us over into the assignments tab in Blackboard. Okay, so let's get over there. And let's go ahead and open up the folder that's critical analysis 1 and 2. Okay, because I want to go over the assignment details for critical analysis 2 before we do anything. Just so all of those details are fresh on our mind, we know what it is that we're supposed to be doing on this second critical analysis, okay? So if you guys recall correctly, we wanted you to go and try to find like 1 to 3. I mean, you can do more if you want to, but at least one, okay? At least one article or articles that differ from the viewpoint that you're trying to promote in your research paper, okay? So I think, what did I use as an example in class? Gun control. So if I'm for gun control, then I needed to go and find sources that were against gun control. So you needed to kind of go through there, make sure it was your opposition, make sure you kept track of those sources so that way you'd be able to cite your sources, whether in MLA or APA. And the goal of the essay was basically to really give you a full view regarding your topic, okay? We wanted you to use examples from your sources, to try to support some answers. You may want to highlight specific aspects of the text to kind of discuss whatever logic that source is using. Talk about what the author is doing, how they're doing it, whether it's effective, all those things. So it's basically a critical analysis on the weaknesses or the strengths in the logic of these sources that you found. We wanted you to look at the style, the tone, the content, grammar, all of that stuff. Like, just pick it apart, okay? Be direct, but be professional. So if you remember, we read through this. I don't want to see any lines that say, I like this. This is really good. Okay, maybe that's a way to start, but we want you to explain why. What was it about it that you thought was really good? Or what was it about it that was absolutely terrible? Okay. The goal was to have 2 full pages of writing. So if you are writing an APA, you would have a cover page, right? 2 full pages of writing, and then you would have a references page. So at the bare minimum, you would have, 4 pages for an APA. For MLA, you need to have at least 2 pages of writing and then your works cited page. So at the bare minimum for MLA, you would have 3 pages. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. We wanted to make sure you had a thesis at the beginning to let us know what you're going to be doing with this paper, with this essay, okay? Did you guys run into any questions for this critical analysis? Sorry, I'm writing myself a note really quick. Okay. Well, here's what I want you guys to do. So I'm going to take us to the discussion board. So let me come over here. I'm going to go ahead and click the class discussion tab. All right, so you'll notice, and my formatting got kind of weird with this one for some reason. It turned it into a scroll bar. Whatever. Okay, so I have another discussion board up here for you guys. It's critical analysis 2. It's a peer review. It's pretty much the same thing that we did with your first peer review, okay? What I am asking is for you guys to post a rough draft. I don't care if your critical analysis is not done. I have no problem with that, okay? I just want you to post what you have. so you can get some feedback on where you're going. Maybe you've started your critical analysis, the second one, and you don't, like, you're stuck at a point, you don't know how to move forward, or, you know, maybe you have some paragraphs that need to be elaborated, but you don't know what else you can add to that. So please post your rough draft. If you have anything that you're specifically worried about, so if I would post my rough draft, I would go ahead, get it posted in there. I'm going to click on our board here. I would go and I would look, obviously, for my document, but maybe I would say, how does my thesis sound? Okay, or you can ask your peers, I know my paragraphs should be longer. How can I do that? Okay, so feel free to put comments like that in there with your draft, so your classmates know specifically maybe what you want them to look at. And then, of course, click submit. Okay, and then after that, I'm asking that you guys go and look at some classmates' drafts. Do that thing where you offer 2 positives and 2 things maybe to work on. Okay, just responding to 2 of your classmates with that. Do you guys have any questions on what I'm asking you to do with this discussion board? Okay. As always, I'm going to be on the discussion board as well. You'll notice that when I post my feedback, it probably doesn't always follow the 2 positives and 2 things to work on, but I try just to, in general, mention things that I want you to work on for your final draft, okay? So let's take, I'm looking at our clock, let's take about 25 minutes. I'll turn on my mic in 25 minutes and see how everybody's doing, and we can kind of make a decision from there, what we want to do, if we need some more time. But while you're working, I'm here on my computer, so if you have a question, please use the chat box, and I'll guide you through whatever question you had, okay? So any questions before I turn my mic and my camera off? Remember, if you literally have nothing for a critical analysis essay, I still want you to participate on this discussion board. Your peers still could use your feedback, okay? But yes, so let's go ahead, take the next couple minutes, get your drafts posted, and then let's go respond to 2 classmates, okay? I'll check in with you at about, what would that be? Let me see, 20 would be 30. So about 9:35-ish, I'll turn my mic on and check on you, okay? All right, let's get started. Okay, so as far as the questions that were mentioned while you guys were working on this peer review, the question was, if you are using APA formatting, whether you have to have a running head or not. Now, it used to be that you had to. I mean, that was the way it was set up. So, but with APA 7 that they just updated last October, they changed that to be, if it is a student paper, you don't have to have the running head. You still need your page numbers over on the right, but you don't have to have a running head. If you had to actually write a professional publication, so maybe like for work, or an article that maybe would be published in a journal, you would want the running head. But for student papers, APA 7 does not require the running head, okay? So just one less thing that you'd have to worry about. Let me see, the other question. Give me a second to scroll through here. Okay, the other question was regarding, again, APA, and it was regarding in-text citations. So if I use a direct quote from my source in the body of my paper, of course I have to cite my source. If in that sentence you have not mentioned the author by name, then you just put your in-text citation at the end of the sentence. And we usually look for, author's name, page numbers, publication years. Those are the type of things that we want to look for. And so that would go in our in-text citation. Now, if in the body of your paper, you said, Smith goes on to claim, and then you have a direct quote, immediately after that direct quote, even if it's like right in the middle of your sentence, then in parentheses, you would put the publication year that Smith said that. So if Smith said that in 2018, it would say, Smith went on to claim blah, 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 parentheses, 2018. And then you could continue on your sentence, which basically means that we need to recycle, period. So your in-text citation then would be in the middle of your sentence and not at the end if you happen to say your author's name at the beginning of the sentence. Take to the chat box and let me know if that's confusing or not. One thing that I've noticed just in the past week with grading, and then I think just throughout a couple of things, really make sure that the citation entries that you guys are building for your works cited page or for your references page, whichever format you're using, make sure that you have a correctly formatted citation. Quite frequently, I'm finding that the citation entries on either or aren't formatted correctly. And what I mean by that is I've seen some MLA papers, and it's not just this class. So some MLA papers on their references page, they'll have citation entries that at first glance I can look at it and realize even though this is an APA paper, the citation entry is actually formatted to MLA. And then vice versa, I'm seeing the same thing. On an MLA paper, I'm seeing citation entries that are built in APA format. So when you are using like Citation Machine or EasyBib or whatever it is you use, make sure that you have the right formatting selected, because it does let you choose. A lot of times what happens is it automatically uses the format that was used last. So after it's generated the citation for you, it'll show up in the screen that, this citation was formatted in MLA 8. And you may want to do APA 7, so you're like, shoot. So you just have to drop down and choose APA 7. Now, EasyBib does not do APA formatting. You have to actually sign up for an account with EasyBib. So Citation Machine is the only one that does both of them. So be very, very aware of that. Quite a few of the sources that you can find online will have that option to cite this page. And usually they have options. So it'll be like APA, Chicago style, MLA. You just have to make sure that you're choosing the right citation to put on your works cited or references page. It's super important because it changes what you'll end up putting in your in-text citation. Okay, so just kind of be aware of that. And if as you're going through, you're like, I don't know if I did that right, feel free to ask me. You can send me a draft. I'll look over it and make sure that you have that right. Okay. Okay. Any questions on critical analysis number 2? Okay, so the final draft of that analysis is due by midnight tonight. And let me really quickly, I just want to make sure it should be set up. So as I said, I know that a couple of you had already submitted a final draft. But if you want to make some changes, yes, it is set up to actually give you another submission, okay, a submission attempt. So you could actually revisit, revise, edit, save, then submit a new draft. And then I always look at the second draft, the second final draft. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we are going to jump right back into Blackboard. Give me a second. So the critical analysis 2 is actually something that can help you build your paper. You know, now that you've looked at both sides, we know that with our persuasive essay, we need to look at both sides. We need to address even the point that we're, not trying to make. We need to address that. By addressing that, we can actually make our argument stronger, okay? So make sure that you are finding sources that are for both sides of the story here, okay? What I want to do is take you into, I gotta look here, Learning Plan 7. The other thing, the note that I wrote down, so last week when we met, we had a research paper check-in just to let me know how you're doing, if you had any questions. I realized last night, I'm not sure how that feedback will pop up for you. Normally, if it's a graded assignment, it'll pop up in your grade book, but I don't know if that's how it will work for you guys. So what you may have to do to get to the feedback that I gave you on that journal entry, you might have to go ahead and click the journal entries tab. And if you guys recall, that's where I had asked you about your thesis statement. Or are you finding sources? Do you have any questions? So what you may have to do is, it was the persuasive paper check-in. So you may have to click on that. And then if you click this drop-down box, it should show your entry. And then when you click on it, then it should have my feedback. Okay, because I know a couple of you had some questions on your thesis statement. Some of you had questions on sources, so I tried to help you out. So know that that's there. So if it's not popping up in your grade book, you might just have to go directly to the journal entries to get that feedback, okay? All right, back into learning plans. Learning Plan 7. So basically everything from here on out is totally focused on that persuasive research paper, that essay, okay? So let's look at this. You guys are, let me come back here really quickly. You guys are still working on those annotated bibliographies. And you know what? Actually, I'll talk about those later. But even those annotated bibliographies are things that are supposed to help you with your persuasive research paper. So we are in week 12. So we have a few weeks left to really hammer down and get this paper done. For most of us, the worst part of writing a paper is starting it. So we can find the sources, we can get our topic, we know what we want to say, but this is a big paper, right? And so we have a tendency to panic when we see that we have to write a really, really long paper. So I wanted to go through a few things that will potentially help you out, because we all approach writing differently. It's nice to look at different techniques. What works for one of you isn't going to work for another of you, okay? So now you guys I had asked you, I don't remember which week that was. Actually, a few weeks ago, I had asked you guys to read chapter 11. Oh, yeah, just a couple weeks ago, I asked you to read chapter 11. And chapter 11 really deals with how to address a persuasive research paper. Like how do I work it? What do I do? What kind of techniques can I use? So in Learning Plan 7, I have this video in here. It's called Writing Longer Research Essays. And I know this is a real fear for most of you, which is normal, okay? This video is a pretty cool video. It takes a lot of the concepts from chapter 11 and has kind of organized them. Now, this is an 8-minute video, and normally I don't like to show a long video, but this video is done so well. We're gonna watch it. I may pause in the middle to kind of go over a couple of the things, but please feel free to take notes with this. And you may, as we go along, you may understand why it would be beneficial, because it shows you really how to set up a lengthy paper, kind of how to do a really rough outline of it. So I'm gonna take my face off here so you're not trying to stream too many things at once. I'm gonna open this up. Okay, so as I said, this video is, sorry, I have all of my children signed into my computer and that pops up all the time. Okay. This is a lot of that information you read in chapter 11. And this all talks about how, in high school, most of you were taught how to format a 5-paragraph essay. That was the basics. And so this video tells us how to go beyond that 5-paragraph essay into actually a longer essay. So let's test our volume here first. Okay, our volume and our view.
This lesson is about writing longer essays.
Okay, take to the chat box. Let me know. Video good? Sound good? Give me some feedback. All right, right on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and full screen it. If at any point in time it gets glitchy, please tell me in the chat box, okay? Want to make sure that you guys can actually see and hear what you need to. All right, so let's full screen it. Okay, here we go.
You've already learned about writing a 5-paragraph essay. This is a common format for students who are learning to write essays. It's often taught in American high schools. But a 5-paragraph essay is really only useful for writing a couple of pages. In college classes, students are asked to write much longer essays, so a 5-paragraph essay won't do. It's necessary to learn to write longer essays. And to do this, you need to learn to write more body paragraphs in your essay. This was an example of an argument essay, and it had 5 paragraphs with 3 body paragraphs. Because it was an argument essay, each body paragraph was a reason that supported the thesis. Let's look at how we could make this a longer essay. To make this a longer essay, we're going to need to use different types of body paragraphs. One type of body paragraph that you can use is a cause and effect paragraph. Here's an example of a cause and effect paragraph. It follows the same structure that you've learned about writing body paragraphs before. It has a topic sentence shown in green, and it has 3 supporting ideas shown in red, and then a couple of details for each of the supporting ideas. In a cause and effect paragraph, you would have 3 causes or 3 effects. This one has 3 causes. And you should already know how to write this kind of paragraph. Another type of paragraph that you could use for a body paragraph is the compare-contrast, where you would compare things or you would contrast things. Here's an example of that. In this compare-contrast paragraph, the writer is contrasting high school and college. And just like with the cause and effect paragraph, the compare-contrast paragraph would have 3 supports with details and examples, all supporting a topic sentence. Here the writer gives 3 differences in the supporting ideas, and they are shown in red. So you should start to see that these paragraph types follow the same structure that you've already learned for body paragraphs. You need a topic sentence that supports the thesis, and you should have several supporting ideas. Then you should have several details and examples that are very specific and help develop the paragraph. That same structure is used for cause-effect, compare-contrast, illustration, which is sometimes called exemplification, argument paragraphs, and classification paragraphs. These 5 types all have a topic sentence with probably 3 supporting ideas and then details and examples for each of those supporting ideas. The structure of those paragraphs will all be the same. It's just a difference of whether your support is causes, or if your support is comparisons, or if your support is examples, like you would use in illustration. So the supports are different, but the structure for those 5 types are all the same. On the right side here, we have 3 other types of body paragraphs: description, narration, and process. Don't follow the exact same pattern. They're a little bit different. Description describes something, and so it doesn't usually have 3 supports. The structure of this kind of paragraph would be maybe geographical, describing a place from left to right or from top to bottom. Or it could describe a person, and if you were describing a person, you would be describing them maybe from their head to their toe. So the structure of this paragraph is a little bit different. Narration and process both use time order. In a narration, you're telling a story about something, and so you tell about the first thing, and then the second thing, and the third thing. It uses time order. Process also does that because you're telling how something happens or how it's done. And so you would tell the first step, the second step, the third step. That's a process. So those 3 types are a little bit different. But all of these types of body paragraphs can help you to write longer essays. You can use one of these types of paragraph in your argument essay to help develop your thesis statement. Let me show you how you would do this. Let's say we're outlining an argument essay. A typical 5-paragraph essay would have an outline like this. We have our thesis statement: college education in the U.S. should be free for everyone. That's our argument. And in a typical 5-paragraph essay, you would use 3 body paragraphs to support that thesis. So these are all 3 reasons that support my thesis statement for the argument essay. But if I want to write a longer essay, I can use other types of paragraphs. So let's take that first reason: colleges should not be making a profit from students. Well, before I get to that, I might want to write a paragraph using narrative style. And I could write a narrative paragraph of background information. I might show how colleges started making a profit off of students. This background information would be helpful before I get to my first reason about colleges should not be making a profit from students. So that's one way I could add a different type of paragraph to help make my essay longer. Maybe before I make my third reason, I might want to add a paragraph comparing or contrasting. Because I'm arguing for American universities having free education for everyone, I might make a paragraph that contrasts other countries who do have free college education and who have better societies. I could show a contrast between those countries and the US. This would also help support my thesis, and it would add another body paragraph. So now I have 5 body paragraphs for my argument essay. I have my original 3 reasons, but I've added a narrative paragraph for background information, and I've added a comparison paragraph to show other countries and how they use free college to have a better society. All of these body paragraphs still support my thesis statement, and now I have a longer essay and it's more developed. So this is making it more academic, which is our goal. So when you write your next essay, try to go beyond the traditional 5-paragraph essay. Try having 6 or 7 paragraphs, and you'll do this by adding different types of body paragraphs. Every essay will be different, so you might not always be able to use a cause and effect paragraph or a description paragraph. So think about your topic and use the kind of paragraph that is most useful for that topic. I hope you'll work on making your essays longer and more academic.
Okay, so I'm hoping that this video helps a little bit. Let's discuss it, okay? So originally, when we're taught writing, we're taught that whole 5-paragraph essay. So we're taught, to have the intro, then to have 3 body paragraphs, and then our conclusion, right? And as the video stated, and as you guys have probably figured out, that doesn't really work in real life writing, okay? So the video, I'm going to kind of backtrack here. Okay, I was going to try to get it. So we've got different kinds, and these are all listed in chapter 11 of your textbook. So if you need like some in-depth information on these types of paragraphs, go to chapter 11. These paragraphs are fantastic because they can be plunked, wherever you need to. Obviously, you need to pay attention to the flow of your paper and make sure that you're transitioning between your paragraphs properly. But these body paragraphs, these types are super awesome to use. And you can use them more than once within your paper. So I know the example she went through, she used a couple different types, and she did that just to show you how that would work in between your points. But you may find that, within the body of your paper, you want to have a couple of comparison contrast paragraphs just to kind of go back and forth between the points that you're trying to make. Cause and effect. You might need an illustration of how something is working, so you might have to go to explain that. So keep in mind that these type of paragraphs, in order to help you build the paragraphs properly, and she did mention it, and you guys can always come back to this video anytime you want. She mentions there's like 3 important parts to these 5 types of paragraphs, okay? The first part she mentioned was a topic sentence, which it doesn't matter what kind of paragraph we're writing, we need to have a topic sentence, okay? But she mentions first, of course, our topic sentence. Then, nope, I need to go back just a little bit more. There we go. Then within that paragraph, 3 supporting ideas that have to deal with that, topic sentence that you have given. And then within that, you give those details and examples. Okay, so that's the general build for those 5 types of paragraphs. She goes on then to elaborate on 3 more kinds of paragraphs. And the reason that she separated them is because these types of paragraphs are built a little differently. Again, it's all there in chapter 11. So hopefully you read it, and as she was going through it, you're like, oh yeah, yep, I read that. I'm familiar with that one. These 3 paragraphs are just a little bit different, okay? But we're still going to start, topic paragraph, make sure we understand what's going on. But with a description, we use what's called that geographic order. So, you're looking at your surroundings, okay? It could be left to right, right to left, top to bottom, bottom to top, whatever. but you're giving a clear view of everything. Whereas with narration, it's a little bit different, okay? Narration, I'm going to try to get it. Narration is more what, well, I guess narration and and process paragraphs are more our time order. You're really taking us through a moment, okay? Think of, when we're talking about narration, think of a narrator, okay? The narrator is telling you what's going on or what has happened. And we usually take it in a really nice sequential order, okay? So that's how those paragraphs are formatted, how they're built. Now, I love it that she takes us through how to take our traditional 5-paragraph and really stretch it out, okay? So I know throughout this semester, as we've been working on trying to prep for this persuasive research essay, I've told you, okay, write your thesis sentence, but, try to think of three points that you want to make in your paper, okay? Now you can kind of see how those 3 points can help you start your organization and then how you can stretch out from that. So we've got this really good example. The thesis, college education in the US should be free for everyone. Okay, and then our writer has 3 points that they want to make. So in a traditional paper, we would have the introduction with our thesis statement in it. I'd have a paragraph talking about point 1, paragraph talking about point 2, paragraph talking about point 3, and then I'd have a conclusion. But we need a longer paper. So we go back and look at, okay, what kind of body paragraphs can I add and where can I add them? So she obviously makes the decision for us. I'm going to fast forward here a little bit. And decides that, after that introductory paragraph for this paper, what if we put in a narrative paragraph and give some background, okay? A narrative paragraph works really well as that paragraph right after your introduction. Because your introduction is just that. Our introduction is just leading us into this topic that you're about to talk about, okay? A narrative paragraph is where you could go into more detail explaining, what's going on with the issue. What exactly is the issue? And you can kind of give those details there, okay? Before you jump into the very first point that you want to make. And then, of course, she takes us, through further on in the paper, then she added a comparison contrast paragraph. Okay, so obviously your papers are going to be set up differently, but it was just it was a good way to show you how you can take your original 3 points and then try to add some of those different body paragraphs in there to really help you stretch it out. Okay, I get it. I think the longest paper I ever had to write, it was a 35-page paper. That was a long paper, and I honestly didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. So you guys can do this. I have total faith in you. Do you guys have any questions on that video, the video that we just watched there? Give me some feedback on how you're feeling. Remember on the bottom where you guys have your tools? You have those emojis you can click on. Give me some feedback on how you're feeling right now. If you guys can remember where to get them. Okay, yay, you guys remember them. Awesome. Okay, good. Awesome, awesome. I'm not like blowing smoke at you guys. I've been reading the stuff that you've been putting together and everything. I have full confidence in your ability to write a long paper, okay? Really, really good. Okay, so just so you know, within Learning Plan 7, there is this video here, and it is a good video. It's 11-minute video. She gives you another type of way. It's very similar to what we just went through with as far as like adding those paragraphs in. So I mean, if you want to see some other options, you can watch her. I will warn you, she talks really fast, really, really fast. Okay. And yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. There is a point in there where she says something about ignoring your instructor's advice. Don't do that, okay? I promise I do try to help you guys succeed. Um, there also is this link here, which is kind of helpful. Um, Good old Purdue Owl, okay? We've got the Owl Writing Lab, and then there's actually the Writing Lab, and there's all kinds of resources there. And then, of course, I mean, you have the NWTC library, and you also have um, the academic advising or the not academic advising, the tutoring, okay? That they are there to read through your paper and help you out if you need it, okay? All right, so I'm going through all of looking at my list here, okay? Okay. One other thing that I wanted to show you, and all of a sudden I can't remember if it's loaded in here for you, and I don't think it is. Okay. I was going to show you one more tool, except for it's not loaded in there, so give me a moment to load it in here for you. Okay. Oops. I apparently need some caffeine this morning. Yes, I apologize for not having this up and ready for you. Okay, so let me take you back in there. All right, so in the persuasive research essay folder, I have what's called a graphic organizer. Now, take to the chat box. Have you guys ever used a graphic organizer? Have any idea what I'm talking about? I'm going to load it up in a second. Oh, I have some yeses and nos. Interesting. Okay. All right, so let me just open this up. This is not mandatory. This is, again, just another tool to help you kind of put things together. I'm a really visual person, so I need to know what it looks like before I get started on something. So this is another way that you can kind of set up a longer paper before you actually get started writing, okay? I know some people love outlines, some people hate outlines, but this is just a really good way to do it. So we would put our thesis statement here. Sometime, like for me, I have to have a thesis statement right away. When my sister-in-law was in college, she would always ask me to read through her papers. And it would drive me nuts because she would have this full paper and I'd ask her, I'm like, oh, where's your introduction with your thesis? She's like, oh, I always write that last. I'm like, what? So yeah, everybody has their own way. So I guess whatever works for you, whatever. But that gives me like hives. I can't write that way. So you would put your thesis in there. And then you would maybe start to think about a hook, something that is interesting to start your introductory paragraph out, off with. So maybe I'm trying to think of a topic here. I mean, maybe vaccinations. I don't know. And so I want to get my reader's attention right away. Okay. And when we are writing this persuasive essay, it's third person. So, with our critical analysis, it was okay for us to say, in this paper, I plan to discuss, these three aspects of this article. We're not going to do that with our persuasive essay. Our persuasive essay is third person, it's academic. So we're not going to introduce what we're going to talk about that way. So maybe my hook would be sharing some information about the bubonic plague. I don't know. Or talking about a personal experience or something even that we found online about what it's like to have chicken pox. Okay. Some of, maybe we would talk about the high fevers with chicken pox, or perhaps we would talk about, those terrible sores and itching and the long lasting scars and, the highly contagious nature, something, I don't know. I'm just trying to brainstorm here. And then we would use that hook to kind of bridge us to our topic. And, we would state in, whatever year, I don't know what year they were created, but we have a chickenpox vaccination now. So we could talk about how in 19 such and such, so-and-so created the chickenpox vaccine to, help alleviate and eliminate that illness. And we'd talk about the benefits of it. And then that would lead us right into our thesis statement. Now, so far, I have asked you guys to really kind of think in your minds about maybe 3 to 5 points that you would like to make in your paper. Okay. So if we look at this graphic organizer, let's just kind of scroll through and look at how we have it set up. So right away, you see I've got main point 1, 2, 3. But if you scroll down, you'll realize I've got 6 points. And you can, keep adding them if you want to. But perhaps your topic is one that you really could come up with 6 things that you would like to point out to your reader about this topic. So what I would do if I was using the graphic organizer is, I would write my first point here. Then I would go and look at my sources. So think about the annotated bibliographies you guys have been working on. How many sources are you supposed to have on your annotated bibliography? At minimum, what are you supposed to have on your annotated bibliography? Do you remember? Tell me in the chat box. 10. Very good. If you want an A, how many are you supposed to have? 12. Very good. Very good. Very good. Okay. If you guys remember from the assignment details for your essay, you have to have 10 sources. So if you have 12 sources on your annotated bibliography, you've got some to choose from. You don't necessarily have to use all those sources. And you may find some beyond the annotated bibliography that you would rather use. Okay, so you have choices. That's where the annotated bibliography comes in handy, because I've already found this source, I've summarized it, I've evaluated it. So I can take some of my summary and I can take some of my evaluation and I can put it in my paper. Okay, so be sure you're utilizing what you've already built up. So what I would do is, here's my main point. I'd go and look at one source from my annotated bibliography maybe and go, oh yeah, that one was really cool and it had talked about this. So I would list my source here. So let's say the author's name was Green, blah, blah, blah. And I would list all my sources and maybe even some paraphrased information. So vaccines or the chicken pox blah, 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 blah. So that's what source one said. Source two said this about the chickenpox vaccine. Source three, so however you want to work that out. And then you can kind of go, the main argument I want to make for point one is right here, or the main explanation I want to get across is right here. And so again, it's just a way to organize it. Okay, so that's a graphic organizer. It takes you through 6 points, which in reality could be 6 paragraphs, right? And then of course you would have transitions between each paragraph, and you would have concluding sentences, and of course you would have a concluding paragraph. Okay. Any questions on this graphic organizer? It's not an assignment. Okay. It's not an assignment. It's just a tool available to you. Okay. Now, one more thing, and then I'm going to let you guys kind of take a break and breathe. Okay. So we have the graphic organizer. We have the video that we looked through. Okay, so according to the video, I'm actually going to turn my camera off because I have to lean forward, and heaven knows you guys don't need to see my face that big in your camera. Okay, so according to that video that we just watched, if we wanted to organize our paper, oh, come on, don't be weird. So we'd have our introduction paragraph that has our thesis statement in it. I don't know why I can't write and talk at the same time. And I've always encouraged you guys to have at least 3 points. If you have more, that is amazing. Okay. So one thing you could do for your paper, I'm pretty sure quite a few have started it, or you've at least jotted some ideas down. Maybe before I get too far into it, I want to go ahead and put that narrative type paragraph in there to give some more background. Okay. Maybe even though I had like that really good hook, okay, so even in my introduction, even though I have that hook that grabs my reader's interest, which kind of then transitions to my topic, then goes into my thesis statement, maybe I want to give some more background, okay? And ask yourself, what kind of paragraph? So if I only have 3 points, what kind of paragraphs can I add in? Maybe I am talking about some of the downfalls of vaccinations. And so I could go look at cause and effect of some other vaccinations and how they affect later on. And then beyond that, maybe I need to go ahead and illustrate something that's happened. Go ahead and give, some details, some examples, 3 supporting ideas for my illustration. Maybe after point 3, I want to go ahead and add one more kind of like an argumentative paragraph, which would then leave me into my conclusion. Okay. So this is another, I'm going to put it here. That makes a little more sense. That's another really, really easy way to outline your paper. Okay. So while these are kind of boiling fresh in your brain, that's a good visual for you guys, isn't it? I am going to have you guys walk away from your computers for a little bit to take a break, kind of a quick one, because a good portion of today's class is actually going to be you guys kind of working on your own. So you would be able to go use the restroom, breathe, and do what you need to. But let's go ahead together as a class and take about a 12-minute break before I tell you the next thing that I would like you guys to jump into, okay? So go be human for about 12 minutes, and then we will reconvene. I get that resume there. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. Again, when you teach also the same classes, it's hard to remember what you did for each class. So I'm going to rely on your memories now of, it would have been a few weeks back, probably more than a few weeks back, we had discussed mapping an argument, okay? And right there in the beginning, we had talked about argument maps. We talked about thesis statements. But as I said, that would have been like towards the beginning of the semester. So I'm going to take us back into Blackboard. And in Learning Plan 3, here, let me even take you all the way back. So in Learning Plan 3, if you're finding yourself stumped, okay, and now that we're actually jumping into the research paper, this is yet another folder you could go back to for some help for setup, okay? So at the very bottom of Learning Plan 3, there is a folder that says Identify a Thesis and Map an Argument. Okay, so I don't know if you guys remember the argument maps and everything that we had gone over, but I'm trying to remember, did we watch this video together? The one about research questions.
Hi, I'm Ellen. In this video, I'll talk about research questions and thesis.
Take to the chat box. Did we watch that one together? Because I don't think we did for this class, but I wasn't sure. Because what I want to do is, now that we are we are super focused in on this persuasive research essay, I want to go back to the beginning just a little bit, just to hit on some of the concepts that we touched on. Because now that you have a foundation for these concepts, now we can go back to them and really put them to good use, okay? So here's what I want you to do. So we're going to watch this video together. It's only 4 minutes, but I want you to be thinking about your thesis statement for your research paper, okay? So whether you have it somewhere, maybe you have it printed, or you just kind of have it in your mind, you know what you want to say, or if you are still working on that thesis statement, it's okay to have a working thesis statement. If you're still working on that and you really only have like points that you know you want to make, maybe you still have some questions, which is excellent. By the way, when I was reading through those journal entries for the paper check-in, one of the best things that you guys did was tell me the questions that you are applying to this paper, because you will see when we watch this video how you can take some of those questions that you have, some of those research questions that you have in regards to your paper. You'll see how we can take those research questions and that helps us to create that thesis statement. So keep your topic, your thesis, your points in your brain as we watch this video, okay? All right, I'm gonna full screen it. So at any time, if she goes like weird and wonky and you can't hear, please let me know, okay? We're gonna get rid of her other videos. All right.
Statements in academic essays. Academic essays differ from other types of essays because instead of addressing topics, they deal with problems or questions. Your job as the author of an essay is to identify one or more specific problems or questions to address. It's important to keep in mind your target audience when identifying these questions. Will your target audience find these questions interesting? Ask yourself why the problems or questions you've come up with are significant. In an academic essay, you shouldn't try to present everything you know about a topic, but rather look for evidence that helps you to answer your question or solve your problem. The questions that you identify are called research questions. Identifying these research questions involves, in a way, identifying a gap in knowledge and then attempting to fill this gap. But how do you know if your research question is interesting or significant to your target audience? An interesting and significant research question is one that leads to something that is new to the audience, or something that they cannot find by merely consulting an encyclopedia. A good research question will also need to be problematic. This means that the research question should lead to a claim that is debatable. What I mean by a debatable claim is an assertion that could either be accepted or denied. Just because you argue for one particular answer to the question or solution to the problem, it doesn't mean that there aren't other possible answers or solutions out there. Your job as an author is to respond to your problem or question by proposing a solution in the form of an assertion or claim. It's up to you to persuade the target audience that the assertion or claim that you make is worthwhile and backed up by evidence. Not all questions that you can ask about your topic are problematic. What I mean by this is that some questions lead to answers which are either right or wrong, and therefore not debatable. Take the following example, for instance. Asking a question along the lines of, "What were the events in the Wars of the Roses in the 15th century?" can be answered by merely listing a series of historical events. A list of historical events can't be denied. What's the point of trying to convince your audience of something that is already fact? The same goes for questions such as, "What's the capital city of Denmark?" The answer, Copenhagen, cannot be denied, at least not after members of your target audience have consulted an encyclopedia. Let's talk a little now about providing an answer to your research question. The claim that you will need to make in your essay, the claim that can either be accepted or denied, is called the central idea. Another term for this is the thesis statement. A thesis statement is a sentence that presents your position on the topic and predicts how the topic will be developed. As well as revealing your stance on the topic, it also functions as a guide to your reader. Your thesis statement can function as a kind of roadmap to your essay. This roadmap or blueprint predicts the scope, the purpose, and the direction of your essay. Having a strong thesis statement shows your audience that you have a clear idea of how you want your essay to deal with the topic in terms of solving a problem or answering a question. In other words, in terms of a claim that you have carefully thought through and that you can justify with the help of evidence.
Okay, so that either really, really helped you or maybe just confused you. So let's go look at a couple of the frames here that she has. Okay, so if you are stumped on your thesis or if you are unsure about how strong your thesis is, I want you to go back to your topic at hand, the topic that you want to address in your paper, and ask yourself some questions about it. Those questions will actually help you find more sources too. So if you're struggling to find sources, start asking more questions about your topic, okay? I know a couple of you have expressed, because the annotated bibliography, you know, if you want an A, we have to have 12 sources. And you're like, well, I can only find so many sources, right? So start asking more questions about your topic. Make sure that you guys have the right focus on this paper. This is a persuasive paper, or sometimes people call it an argumentative paper. So this is not an informative paper. As she said, This paper shouldn't give us just simple information that I could go load up an encyclopedia and just go ahead and find a whole bunch of facts. That's not what we're doing with this paper. We are focusing on topics that are debatable. Okay. And so we want to be able to take those questions. So those questions not only help us build the thesis statement, they help us figure out our direction, and they also help us find sources. Okay, so as I said, if you're stumped and you're trying to find more sources, ask more questions. Okay, that's also another way to help you extend your paper. If you feel like you're too narrowed in on what you have, ask more questions. What other questions can you ask regarding your topic? Okay, so I just wanted to, let's see here. Trying to go to the right frame here. So as I said, you're going to take those questions and you're going to flip them around to a thesis statement. Okay, you answer them, and then thereby answering them, you have a thesis statement. So let me see. Well, I'm trying to think of a topic. I don't know why I can't ever think of topics right off the top of my head. I'll go back to vaccinations, okay? So I'm going to just use the chat box. That sometimes is easier than trying to pop the whiteboard up here. So let's say we have the topic of vaccination. I want you guys to help me brainstorm, okay? Thinking of the topic of vaccination, what kinds of questions can we ask? What kind of research questions can we ask regarding vaccination? So take just a few moments, think of a question, type it in the chat box. I'm going to think as well. What type of research questions can we ask about vaccinations? And remember, we're trying to ask questions that can't just be answered by an encyclopedia. Okay, so like not when was the first vaccination made? We want to go beyond that. And I'm typing some, but I kind of want to see what you guys come up with as well, okay? Okay, before I hit enter, did anybody come up with any thoughts? You also can turn your mic on and tell me if you want to, but we're just brainstorming here. Did I stump you guys? Okay. Oops, somebody clicked enter the same time that I did. Okay, so let's look at these. Ooh, so this is somebody who has a lot more health knowledge than I do. You'll notice the difference in our questions. Okay, let's just kind of take a look at these and show how asking questions and answering them can help us here. So I'm going to look at Alexia's. Hers look way better than mine. Okay, so which of the various vaccines are attenuated or live? Pathophysiology of the immune response. Okay, yeah. So I have to dumb it down for me You're way smarter than me here. Okay. So, but these are all excellent questions because, like, the questions that she just asked right there, you're going to have to do some research for. It's not like I can't just go to the Encyclopedia Britannica online and find answers for them. Okay. Now, add in my questions. So, with all the advances in medicines, are vaccines truly necessary? Let's look around. We have, a lot of advances in medicine. Um, do we actually need the vaccine? And if so, why or why not? Um, and another question that I hear asked quite frequently is, do the benefits of vaccinations outweigh the side effects? Because with every vaccination, there are side effects because it affects people differently, right? Okay, so here is what I want you guys to do. You can see those questions in the chat box, so answer them. These are your personal opinion too, okay? There's no right or wrong answer. Try to answer one or two of those questions. Let's put it in the chat box, and then we're going to write a couple thesis statements from our responses. So, but I want you to come up with the responses. So answer some of those questions. Tell me what your thoughts are. And you can send it to me private if you're like afraid for whatever reason. Nobody's allowed to attack anybody in this class, whether you are pro or anti-vaccination, just FYI, okay? So go ahead, answer those questions, and then let's see what we can do to build a thesis statement, okay? So take a moment. I'm gonna take a drink of water. And these are just your knee-jerk reactions. You don't have to do any research for these answers. Okay, so I'm just going to read through I'm going to apply, I guess I should say, some of what has come through in the chat here. I'm looking through them. Ooh, I like that one too. Okay, so let's just do a couple of things. So while you guys were thinking, I was thinking as well. Okay. Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do because I don't want to delete everything that I just typed. So let me show you what I got, and then I want to take some of your answers and show you how we can take the answers to those research questions and apply them to a thesis statement, okay? So I kind of BS'd my way through my answers because, like, I know quite a few of you are feeling this way as well. I'm not super knowledgeable when it comes to modern medicine and health, and even with as much research as I've done, like with the COVID vaccination, because that's what everybody's talking about right now. I still, I have just scratched the surface on that knowledge. Okay, so bear with me, all right? So I looked at my research questions. Oh yeah, you guys keep typing. Looked at my research questions and I answered them. But as I was answering them, I put them in a thesis statement because that's just how I'm comfortable working. Okay. So what I came up with is it is because of the advances in medicines that we are able to identify the necessity of vaccinations, and that we are able to see the benefits, acknowledge the side effects, and work with what we have for a healthier population. That's not necessarily, I'm not saying, as your instructor, I am neutral on all topics, okay? So let me just throw that out there. But you see how we can take some answers and put them in. So now I'm going to look at, you guys came up with some really good ones, okay? Necessary. I like the wording of prevention and treatment. Treating these diseases are costly. Ooh, that's a good point. Very good point. Vaccination, since without them we would have. Okay, so let's look at, you guys can all see in the chat box, a couple of your classmates have shared their thoughts with all of you and have made some excellent points, have brought those points out with answers to the research question. So let's see if we can kind of compile some of those thoughts, okay? Okay, sorry, I'm trying to think of a word. I'm looking at all your answers and I'm trying to think of a word. Um, Okay, so what I did is I looked at the answers that you guys have right here in the chat box, okay? Again, we're just going back to our original research questions, which were just really generic questions. And you guys brought up some really, really good points. So this is what I did with your answers, okay? I just knocked my computer, sorry. So I'm trying to combine, I think like 4 of you here. Prevention before treatment is not only more cost effective, but is also more health effective. Therefore, vaccinations show their necessity not only by preventing the preventable, but also by extending life expectancy and promoting a better quality of life. Okay, so do you guys kind of see the process there? Ask the questions, answer the questions, and then really extend those answers, organize them, put them together, and you have a thesis statement. Give me some reactions. How are you feeling about this so far? show me with an emoji here or a reaction or even in the chat box. Okay. I basically want to make sure I didn't just confuse or terrify anybody. Okay. Um, as I've said before, I really do have to commend you guys with your critical thinking process and what you're able to pull out from the sources that you guys read. So, if you find yourself still kind of struggling, maybe you feel like your thesis statement isn't quite strong enough, go back and ask more questions. Okay, it always starts with a question. So get some good questions to kind of springboard yourself off there. And all of that video that we just watched is just right there in Learning Plan 3. And Learning Plan 3 has more resources regarding thesis statements. Okay. So, but as I said, if you're struggling with your sources, ask more questions as well. Always ask more questions. If you get stumped in writing your paper, ask more questions. Just make sure that in doing so, whatever you're working on links back to your original thesis statement. And don't be discouraged if, as you're writing, you go back and you realize, I need to alter my thesis statement a little bit. I need to add this, or maybe I need to take this away, because every paragraph in your paper needs to link back to that thesis statement. Okay. So do you guys have any questions? Any questions at all on that? Okay. Let me show you just a couple more things here. Okay, so really quickly, going back into the assignments folder, taking you back into the persuasive research essay folder. So I put that graphic organizer right there. What I also want to do is put kind of the breakdown of that video in there as well. And I will explain why in a second. And I am going to delete these. Well, let's do this. Okay, so we have an example. And we need to keep in mind that the 5 types of body paragraphs mentioned were, cause and effect, comparison, contrast, illustration. Should be making you guys tell me this. I told you to take notes. Argument, classification. That is how I spell. I still sound it out like I'm in elementary school. 3 more types, which actually would be description, narration, and a process. And remember that all of these types are in chapter 11. Okay? So here, because I think that the planning part and the outlining and drafting part is so important to your paper, here is what I am going to do. I need to put this all the way up to the top. Okay, so at the top of this assignment folder for your persuasive a research essay, we have the example, the breakdown from the video, right? And the types of body paragraphs that we can add in there to help stretch that paper out. We also have the graphic organizer, okay? So what I'm going to do is I am going to put in an extra credit opportunity. I don't do this very often, but if you guys want to take the opportunity to try to kind of just devise a draft really quickly, write out your points, write out some potential paragraphs, or if you'd like to use the graphic organizer, I will offer you guys 10 extra credit points for submitting some type of an outline that shows your potential organization, okay? So let me, so I will give you up to 10 points for doing that, okay? So here, don't panic because I have to put 0 in here so that way when I enter points in, it's extra credit. So I will give you until tomorrow by midnight. Oh, that's right. It always makes me do 11:59 p.m. Dun, dun, dun. End of the day. By midnight to submit. Just like I said, it's just an extra credit opportunity. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I think it is so important to outline what it is you're going to do. It will save you an enormous headache. It also will help you if you're stumped, okay? And it gives you a pretty good view of where you're going with your paper. So if you're panicking that this is really long and you don't know what to do, that's a good way to do it, okay? So it's just an extra credit point or extra credit points. So if you don't want to do it, please do not feel that you have to do it, okay? Any questions on what I'm asking you to do to get those extra credit points? Okay. All right, let me back out, back into the assignments area, okay? And I'm going to take us to the annotated bibliography just really quickly. Here's the reason that I want to do this. I don't know if we're having issues with, formatting because of the conversion of the upload. Ooh, that's terrible. Terrible. Of the upload from your computer to Blackboard, but I'm seeing a lot of like formatting issues. So yeah, that's right. Okay. That's not right either. Where is, okay, let me find the one that I want to show you. Too many documents here. Something is happening with your annotated bibliographies and your formatting is going a little bit wonky, okay? So Let me show you. This is one that I shared with you in class before. I thought I had uploaded it, but maybe I did not. So when you guys are setting up your annotated bibliographies, sometimes what happens is when you put in the hanging indent for your citation, it like moves your paragraphs all the way over. And again, I don't know if that's happening between the when you upload your document between your computer and Blackboard. I'm not sure, but formatting is really huge in regards to our annotated bibliography. So it's not terrible if, let's say, if it's set up like that, you know, if you're lined up like that. But ideally, we want everything to be completely left justified. Only exceptions to that are your hanging indent and that first line of your paragraph. Okay. I've seen it where, again, I don't know if it's the conversion, where it's almost just like a little skinny column on the side and some of the formatting has been lost. So really take a look at the formatting of your annotated bibliographies. Make sure that you don't have scrambled paragraphs. Make sure that your citations have their hanging indents, okay? That first line needs to be justified all the way to the left, and all the subsequent lines need to be tabbed over. Is there anybody who needs me to show them how to do a hanging indent in Word? Take to the chat box. Feel free to message me privately because I can go through that really quickly if you guys had needed me to. I just want you to really look at your annotated bibliographies. Make sure that you're developing both of those paragraphs. I always say, as a rule of thumb, shoot for 6 to 12 sentences per paragraph, simply because 4 sentences just isn't enough to really summarize or to really even evaluate a source. So stretch that out. I did grade, I think, all of the annotated bibliographies that have been submitted so far. So that way I could give you guys feedback so you would know what to kind of change, fix, do what you need to. Remember that as you're working on your annotations, so whether you do 10, 11, or 12, make sure you're putting them all in the same document, okay? So that way you have them organized together. And if they're all in the same document, they have to be alphabetized, okay? So, you know, if you look at my example here, we start with C, we go to J, K, P, okay? So make sure they're in alphabetical order, but keep them in the same document simply because that's easier for you. You know, you don't have to create all these documents. So you guys have done a total of at least 4 annotations by this point. You have until April 23rd. April 23rd by midnight is when you need to submit all of them, okay? So you need to have either 10, 11, or 12, a total of total sources submitted by April 23rd by midnight. So do you guys have any annotated bibliography questions for me? Remember, if you get stumped, come into this assignment folder, read through the assignment details, okay? If you open up this document right here, this is the rubric that you're going to be graded on. So sometimes looking at the rubric lets you know maybe what you need to be working on as well, okay? All right. I am going to pull up our syllabus simply because I like the course calendar at the end of this here. So we can just look at a couple of things. All right, so this is today. This is week 12. Okay. Your assignments are this. You need to continue to work on your annotated bibliographies so you have all 10, 11, 12 entries submitted by midnight on the 23rd. When we get to class next Friday, I want you guys to have a rough draft of your persuasive essay, okay? Do you guys remember how many pages your final draft of the essay is supposed to be? Use the chat box. Let me know if you remember. Very good. 12 to 15, okay? For next week, we are asking for a rough draft. Most of the time, the rough draft is not the full amount of pages. So if you have only like 5, 6 pages of your draft by then, that's what I want you to come with, okay? If you're writing APA and you don't have your title page on there, that's okay. It's a rough draft, okay? We are really, really going to be focusing on that rough draft on the 13th, okay? And that'll be in class. We're going to be nitpicky and we're going to help each other out. So make sure you have a draft. You absolutely have to have a draft for next Friday. We're not expecting perfection. We are not even expecting completeness. We're just expecting a draft. Okay. Week 14, which is the 30th, we will be having instructor conferences. So what will end up happening, because we're in a virtual, we're in a virtual realm here, I will have an appointment schedule set up, and you will need to have a second rough draft ready for you and I to look at, okay? So I will be going over those details next week on how week 14 is going to work, all right? So the main thing you need to do is you need to keep working on this paper. Now, if you've looked ahead at your course calendar, you will notice that our very last week together on the 7th, it says presentations. You guys will be making a presentation on your research paper, okay? So I just wanted to show you something about that really quickly. Wrong folder. It's not as bad as it sounds, okay? So in the assignments tab, if you click on it, there is a folder that says Persuasive Research Essay Presentation, okay? Here is what you need to know. You are going to give a presentation. So you are going to turn on your camera, you're going to turn on your mic, and you're going to talk to us. And I need to alter this just a little bit because this is set up for if this was an online class. But you are going to present what we call an oral defense of your final research paper, okay? It's like about a 5-minute presentation. What you're going to do is you are going to, ignore where it says 5 individuals of your choosing. You're stuck with us, okay? You're not going to get up and read your paper to us, but rather you're going to actually just kind of present some of the key points from your paper and some of maybe like really good evidence that you found, some facts that you found that really support your opinion, your topic, okay? You should have a visual with it. I usually say use PowerPoint, use Prezi, whatever. You're going to share that with me and I will present it up on the screen. So you'll just have to say next, next. Okay, that seems to work the best for this virtual aspect. So 5 minutes, it'll go way faster than you think. You're not reading your paper. You're just giving us the highlights of your paper. Okay? And at the very end, you have to let us ask you a couple of questions, but that's it. So you guys have any questions on this? By writing your paper, you are preparing this presentation. You'll have time to work on it, I promise. I just wanted to make sure you knew that that was coming up. Okay, so here's what I want to do, you guys. You've got 25 minutes left today. Sorry, I had planned to give you more time, but it just didn't work out that way. 25 minutes left today. Work on your annotated bibliographies. Work on your research paper rough draft, okay? Really work on that thesis statement. Remember, if you would like that extra credit opportunity, it is in the assignments tab, persuasive research essay, extra credit. And I'll put all that in the email that I sent out, but take the rest of class time. I know it's not a ton, I'm sorry. Take the rest of class time to work. Hold on, there's a really good question that the rest of you might need to need. Let's see. Okay, this is a really good question. So you guys have submitted 4 annotations, annotated bibliographies so far. You need to have a total of 12 for an A. So that means you would only need to do 8 more annotations. Okay, so you don't need to do an additional 12 or an additional 10 or anything. You need to do an additional 8 to have the 12 annotations, or an additional 6 just to get the bare minimum. Okay, does that make sense? Say, let me know if you're confused about that. Okay, I'll say good. All right. The other question that popped through was, when is the extra credit due? So by midnight tomorrow. So that gives you some time just to kind of draft. It's just an extra credit thing. 10 points strictly for you. The reason that I say by tomorrow night, because really you're supposed to be working on your rough draft. Okay, so I don't want you to wait till the very end to turn that outline in. Okay, so outline for extra credit due tomorrow night by midnight. Annotated bibliographies, the rest of them are due by midnight on the 23rd, so next Friday. I'm looking at my calendar here. And you need to come to class on Friday with a rough draft, your persuasive rough draft, because we're going to work on it in class. Any question on that? So there's like 3 major things there: outline, annotated bibliography finish, rough draft. Okay. If you guys don't have any questions, feel free to sign out, get to work. I'm going to stay right here just in case you do have questions. So other than that, have a great weekend and work hard, okay? I'll see you on Friday, next Friday.